Hello there, ladies. It is Tiffany of Clarity, Confidence, Courage, Women's Empowerment. I'm a women's life coach that helps heart-centered, empathic, divorced women rebuild, recreate, and redesign lives that they truly love. Today, we're going to go into part 2 of the interview that I did with financial wealth advisor Nicole Middendorf. If you didn't see part 1, here it is. The link will be in the description. Make sure you check out that video because that is the beginning where she's really getting into the understanding of what to do while you're married, right before you get divorced, and what you should be focused on when you get divorced as far as your finances. In this video for part 2, we're going to dive deep where part 1 left off into this concept of the Live It list and how to use your money as you're building your wealth to truly enjoy your life on experiences, on travel, on luxurious things that you love and that make life worth living, whatever that is for you. So listen to all the information about Nicole's Live It list, how she teaches this wealth information to her children, and how she has continued to build a life that she loves. All right, ladies, now before we jump into the content, make sure you share, like, and subscribe so that other women can see this channel and start rebuilding their lives after divorce. All right, let's jump into this content.
I love that. And I love how you transformed also a part of your business into this experience, the Live It list, which we are going to get to in a minute. But this idea that, first of all, we need money to live. And I had to learn that the hard way. This is not just about just daily survival, but it's about having experiences. And when I started to look you up, Nicole, and I saw the Live It list, and I'm glad that you brought that up, I thought, yes, this is what I want divorced women to see. Yes, it's important to be, smart with your money and putting away for retirement, but also you want to live again. You got out of a terrible situation. Now what? Now what is the next step? How are you going to use your money to build a life that you actually love? And Nicole, tell us a little bit more about the Live It list, because I know you take trips. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So the kids were 2 and 3, and I'm like, what? How did I end up here? I didn't pick out my career. I didn't pick out my house. I didn't pick out my car. I didn't want the boat, the jet skis, like all this stuff that we had. Like from the outside, my life looked perfect. Living on the lake. I did a radio show. By that time, I had written my first book, maybe my second. Everything looked perfect, but none of it I wanted and none of it I loved. I was literally miserable. And I'm like, okay, so what do I do? How do I get out of this? And so I always had lists. I was a former figure skater, and growing up, one of my coaches had her PhD in psychology. So she always worked with me with the power of my mind and always worked with me to set goals. And so I was just always very driven. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to rewrite my bucket list. I'm going to do one thing a month for a year because the average divorce takes about a year. Little did I know mine would take 10.
Oh, gosh.
But what happened is I just started doing these things. And so I wrote down these 12 things, and one of them was to drive a race car. So I met with my best friend from college. I said, here's my bucket list, and I'm going to do one thing a month for a year because it'll be a distractor for me, and it will help me boost my confidence because I physically, emotionally, financially, I was numb. I stopped hugging people. I had truly lost myself, and I needed to find myself again. So one of the things on the list was to drive a race car, because I had always, prior to my 13 years of being married, I was this huge adrenaline junkie, but all that had disappeared and dissipated. And so I told Billy, I said, let's go up to northern Minnesota and we're going to drive a race car. And he's like, Nick, anything you do, you don't just put 100% into it. You put 180. You need to go to a real speedway. And still to this day, I don't know how to drive a stick shift. But he's like, go to Vegas this weekend. I'm like, perfect. I'm like, let's book the flights. He's like, no. He's like, you need to go by yourself and, good luck. And so I was petrified. One, I had never traveled by myself, except, back when I had studied over in Europe. That was the last time. But it was that was the former me. So my parents moved into my house to take care of the kids. I hopped on a plane by myself, which was scary at the time, going to Vegas. And I sat down, and for some reason I felt compelled to stay in the women's book club and going through divorce. Looking back, I'm like, how did I make all this happen? And part of it is if I can do that, I can do anything.
Yes.
But I was reading Steve Jobs' book at the time, because that was part of the book club. I'm like, I got to get through this. And I had that gentleman on the plane that had to talk to me the whole time. And he wouldn't not leave me alone. And he's like, you're not going to Vegas to gamble? I'm like, I'm a wealth advisor. I gamble with people's money every single day. I don't need to go to Vegas to gamble. But he couldn't understand why I was going to Vegas just to drive a race car. And I'm like, look, I redid my bucket list. I'm doing one thing a month for a year. He finally got quiet and he's like, oh my God. He's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, you're so young. Is it cancer? And so it was at that moment where I'm like, I can't do this. Like everything in my life was so negative. I'm like, I can't tell people I'm doing something on my bucket list because they think I'm dying.
Right.
That's where I just started calling it the Live It list. And I continued to do these one thing a month. And then I learned 1 in 3 Americans is happy. I learned if you spend more money in experiences, you're going to be happier than if you spend money on things. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, like I kept doing one thing a month. I'm like, because if I could swim with sharks, if I could rappel down the building, if I could jump out of a plane, if I could go sit at a movie theater by myself, like simple things to big things, if I could do that stuff and survive, I was like, okay, I can handle sitting in the courtroom with this man that, tried to kill me and like emotionally devastated me. And I can take care of these 2 kids and I don't need child support. And I can pay this spousal maintenance. Like I can do this. I can run this business. Like it was this huge confidence booster for me. And so that's where eventually, so we started telling all of our clients, okay, here's the Live It list. It's going to go in your financial plan. Well, then I was like, okay, wow. Like I need to like give this as a tool to people because this is what got me back. It got me my confidence back. It got me my happiness back. It got me that I could wake up in the morning and feel joy, that I wasn't numb anymore. And so that's where earlier this year, we launched the liveitlist.com. And that's where so we just actually are posting, I think we're starting to post it today. It's things that there's a sushi restaurant at the Mall of America that serves by robots. And so I'm like, I've never done that. That would be fun. And so now I'm posting the things and I'm like, whoever wants to come along with me, this is when I'm going, like, join me. And so it's all about living life to the fullest because that's what your kids want is they want time with you. They want memories. They want experiences. And that's what you want. It's not the stuff. That's what doesn't matter. Like for me, I was like, take it all. Like, I don't want the boat, the 4-wheelers, like jet ski, like none of that matters. I just want to wake up in the morning and not have someone punch me. I want to wake up in the morning and not have someone toss a glass of water on me. I want to actually feel life and feel happiness and feel joy and be able to live a life of happiness. And so that's what the Live It list has done for me. And that's where I'm taking this to really help other people in any capacity of life, really live life to the fullest.
Oh, wow. I'm tearing up. Because when you talk about, and I think so many women who have been in these difficult marriages can relate, like by the end of it, you're like, you can have it all. I just want out.
Right.
And to think that aspect of, like you said, what am I living for versus what am I kicking the bucket for? Changing that perception and that perspective of, no, I'm alive. Number one, I get to wake up every day and breathe air. Number 2, and be free. Number 3.
Yeah.
And this idea of I have something to live for. And I think so many times we think that building up confidence and courage is about doing these big major things, like, being the Oprah, being the, all these big names. And it's like, I always tell women, do the thing that you think takes courage.
Right.
If wearing red lipstick is a big deal to you, wear it.
It's a big deal for me.
Right? Changing your hair, do it.
Right.
If going to the movies by yourself. I remember the first time I did that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm at the movies by myself. It was a wonderful experience, but take the little steps to build up that confidence and courage to propel you to whatever it is you're going to do. And I love how you said, if I can do this, I can sit in that courtroom and be just as strong.
Yes.
I get chills. I get chills. And the thing is, one thing that I've realized, Nicole, and I'm so glad that you talked about the Live It list and how you have now connected that to this idea of financial prosperity and building up your wealth, because it makes me realize, of course, wealth is not just in money. wealth is in every aspect of your life. And to see you talking as you're talking about yourself and how you made that change, I can imagine that that had a massive impact on your children
Yes.
and being able to see their mother, their role model, become this woman. Can you talk to some of the women that have children? I do not have children, about how this change can and has impacted how your children perceive you and perceive them in a healthy marriage?
Yes. And that was the biggest thing for me is I got my kids both into therapy at a very young age because I was like, I learned that what was done to me and my kids was done to my now ex-husband and his mom. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I've got to stop this. Like, I've got to stop this cycle of domestic violence. I need to make sure that both of my kids do not become abusers or do not become victims. And so for me, it was having like, it was actually funny because the kids and I, earlier this week, Monday night, we took my parents out to dinner. It was like one of the rare times where they didn't have activities and sports. We didn't have anything going on, and we went out to dinner. And so on the way back, the kids are in the car talking about something that's like this new trend. And I had this moment, like, and I'm like, never thought, and I even told the kids, I said, it's what I love. I love that you feel that like you can tell me anything and everything. But I never thought in my wildest dreams when I would be a mother that I would be having these kinds of conversations with you guys of these things that are like, I would have never talked to my parents about. Like, it's totally inappropriate, but I really respect the fact that you're able to talk about this stuff with me. And so for me, you know, a lot of times people get scared and they don't want to share with their kids. And there's this, I feel like there's this fine line. Like, you don't ever want to talk bad about the other parent. You want to take the high road, but you also don't want to be so closed about things, but you also don't want to be too super open. There's like kid things and then there's adult things. And so there's this fine balance, but the important thing is to have an open conversation of every aspect. And so my daughter, one of the things that I love, I really will be surprised if she's not like a mediator or a therapist herself, but she's had so many different experiences with girlfriends that, like, one in particular, there are these girls and they were playing together in the pool in the backyard. And she called them out and had them sit down on the diving board. And she was like, here's the deal. You're saying this and she's hearing it this way. And so you're hurting Susie's feelings. So Maggie, how about you say it this way? And I was like watching this and I'm like, you know, like everything happens for a reason. Like, because I got my kids in therapy at a young age, because I've had these conversations of like, how do you deal with difficult people? How do you deal with difficult situations? How do you deal with money? Your kids are going to be better humans. You know, that's what I always say to them. I just want you to be the best human, the best citizen, the best friend, the best student, you know, the best person that you can be. And one of the shadow box that's behind me, it says family 401k. And this is one of my favorite tools. We actually sell these. If you go to NicoleMiddendorf.com, you can buy one of these boxes. You can make one yourself or just take a shoe box. But we have a family 401k. And what happens is we have family meetings. And at these family meetings, we'll talk about anything and everything, but we mainly are focused on our family 401k. And so it's stuff that I would have spent money on already. So my kids have a trampoline, they have a hoverboard, they bought a tube for the summer for behind the boat. They have a skateboard thing. It was a scooter. They have an Xbox machine. And so this summer, prior to this summer, the kids, there was already $100 in there. And I was like, you guys, like, what do you want to do with the family 401k? Like, we don't know. We don't know. Well, we got the boat and they're like, we want a tube for behind the boat. And I'm like, great, let's have a family meeting. Because what are you going to do? You feel the pressure as a parent to be on the same level as every other parent. And you feel, you're like, my kids want this. I got to be able to provide it. Well, you can provide even a better experience for your kids if you make them pay for things themselves. And so what happened is the kid, you know, I'm like, let's have a family meeting. And so my daughter wanted a tube for behind the boat that you sat up on. My son wanted one that you lay down on. So they had to come together on an agreement of a tube. So they're both searching online, they're negotiating, they're learning how to communicate and come to an agreement. So they came to an agreement on the tube. I'm like, how much is it? I was like, let's say it was $300. I'm like, okay, you've got $100 in here so far. And so what happens with the family 401k is, let's say they put in $10. I then match them $10. So they have a goal that they agreed upon. They're both wanting to get this tube. So they're both contributing. I'm contributing. Your kids learn what a 401k is. They learn what a match is. They learn how to save. They learn that nothing ever comes immediately. We don't have to have instant gratification. We're going to appreciate things more if you save your own money for it. So the kids take care of the tube more than if I had just bought it myself. And so that's where, like, it's little tools like that. You can use these love and money cards with your kids. It's all about having conversations about money and being honest with them and being upfront. And the other big thing, now that my son's a freshman, we had his first meeting the other day with this counselor about college and all of that stuff. It's really being honest and open with your kids and being honest and open with yourself. So many times people don't want to talk about money. And so these kids then are like, okay, I'm supposed to go to college. Well, they go to college. They have no idea how they're supposed to pay for it. They just think, oh, student loans. Well, then what happens? I get the kid that has the $100,000 in a student loan regretting it and wishing they would have had more conversations with their kids. So pick what you can afford. Both my kids know I'll pay for half your college and half your first car, but you got to get good grades, no tattoos. You got to have great behavior and, certain couple other things. Well, my son broke one of the rules. So I'm like, you're on your own. He's like, that's fine. He's like, I've saved my money for a car. And he's like, got this little electric bike. And he's like, I'm going to go into the military. Where my daughter is like, okay, let me figure out, this is how much more I need for a Jeep. And she's 13 and already looking at how much Jeeps cost.
Oh my God.
And she has a Roth IRA. She has more in her Roth IRA than most 20-year-olds.
Yes.
And so you can set your kids up. The magic of money is having time. Mm-hmm. And so it's always looking at, you want to do the best for your kids. We'll have these conversations, help your kids get a Roth IRA, because time is the way to invest. And that's what you can't get back yourself, but you can give that for your kids. So
nice, nice. And before we go, is there anything else that you would like to add, Nicole?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is don't have fear. So many times, I see women not wanting to get divorced or not wanting to make a shift in their life, like take a different job or move or whatever, because they're afraid of the unknown. And really anytime, and I'm struggling with this right now because I'm taking kind of a leap in my life. And I had lunch with my mentor yesterday. And I said, I have the same feelings that I did about 5 years ago, before I bought my 9,000 square foot commercial building for my business. And I said, I look now and I'm like, why was I afraid? That's so dumb. Like, that was the smartest thing I did. But I'm like, I'm having those same exact feelings again about this next leap of faith. And so get yourself, mentors, advisors, people that can help you, and really, just kick that fear aside, because the world is your oyster and you can do whatever you put your mind to.
Oh, wow. And I love that, Nicole, because I think that, at least for me, when I look at highly successful women and I'm like, oh my gosh, how'd they do it? They must be fearless. They must have the courage of a million, a Wonder Woman. And it's like, when you talk to those women, they're like, well, I still have fear. I just do it anyway. It's like, I still feel the feeling, but I made the decision to move forward anyway. And so I'm so glad you talked about fear, because I always tell women, well, the biggest fear that you probably have at this point pursued was getting that divorce and making that decision to leave that what you believed at that time was probably a stable situation to step into what you did not know. And so I really appreciate you being vulnerable with us and opening up and saying that you still have fears and you're still moving forward. So I hope that the women who are watching this can take that in and use that as motivation to every day move forward into fear. Because I always say, the greatest life that you'll ever live, and I had to experience this myself, is on the other side of your comfort zone. It really is.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. These are my
Yeah.
favorite phrases.
Yes. So to wrap us up, first, can you just leave our audience with the biggest motivational message that you can think of, just to let women know? And then I would love for you to tell us, where we can buy your books, where we can follow you online. Of course, I'll have this all in my description, but just the biggest motivation that you can leave the women who are watching this with, as far as moving forward in life, courage and confidence, finances, all the things, because you have literally lived the life, and where we can follow you and where we can keep up with you.
Yeah. So I would say the biggest thing is realize that no one has it together. I walked into a room, I was in a group of CEOs and I was the only female, and I was super intimidated. These men are like, I've got 30 million of revenue and 60 million of revenue. And I watched these men over a handful of months and I was like, they don't know what they're doing. And so the biggest thing is like, I exude this confidence, but confidence is something that I work on every single day. And so don't compare yourself to someone else, and don't think like this person's at this level that I need to be there. You are worthy yourself. And that is something I say to myself every morning, because particularly when you're in a relationship, or just how we're raised as women, like we're kind of always put in our little place. And so get a theme song. For me, it's Unstoppable by Sia. And I worked out this morning. I blare that song, lift weights, do what makes you feel powerful and strong, because own it. And don't look to anyone else to get that confidence. You've got to feel it inside yourself. And then where you can find me, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all the social media platforms. You can go to NicoleMiddendorf.com. That's where you can buy the books, and you can get to prosperwell.com from there. And you can also get to the liveitlist.com if you want to join us on any Live It List coaching or experiences. Scott.
Well, Nicole, thank you again. I'll put all of your information in the description so that we can follow you, so that we can keep up with you. And definitely, at any point, anyone that is watching this, if you want more information from Nicole, can't seem to find her information, just let me know. I'll be happy to push her information to you over at Prosper Well. Thank you again, Nicole. I really appreciate you being here.
Well, that is it for me. I hope you loved this two-part series with Nicole Middendorf. All of her information is in my description below. I hope you understood more about not just how to build your finances, but how to build your finances in a way that actually brings you joy, safety, and comfort. And especially if you have children, how to use that to be a role model for your children. As always, make sure you share, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week in the next video. Talk soon. Bye.